This is going to be every record that I personally will publicly admit to being wrong about. What inspired this video was actually a video that I had made a couple months ago titled Drake's Worst Album. And the purpose of me making that video was actually to be positive toward Drake and tell people what I think would make a great Drake record, while also giving examples of the best that I feel he's had to offer. Drake is one of those artists who's made me go back to his old work because his new work has been terrible. So it's made me go back to his past work and many artists' past work as a, maybe it wasn't that bad. When I made this video, I thought to myself, it can't get any worse from Drake. And I should have known that that isn't me, because Shawn C and Optimism just don't go in the same sentence. But I still maintained hope that after CLB, Drake would not have another entry in his discography that could be worse than that. But I was proven wrong. And now we're a few weeks removed from the record, and I really feel like it's not a joke anymore. Like, that was a serious album. I'm still waiting for Drake to pull back the curtains and be like, you know what, it was all a social experiment. Y'all remember Timmy Thick? What happened to him? I just want you to answer me that real quick. Like, what happened to him? Where did he go? That's what I was thinking Drake was about to do with this album. Like, it was just a distant memory. Like on some Jussie Smollett shit. It was all a joke. It was a prank. But he was serious. So Drake made me make this video because he made me be wrong. After listening to the snooze fest that is honestly Nevermind, watching Drake carry on as if he's an artist who's already passed away and his label is just forcing his vocals onto an album as fan service, has forced me into a new relationship with songs like Passion Fruit, which, if you can remember, I said this about on first listen.
The track didn't do anything for me other than deliver more island vibey music, more, dance music, which is okay, but we've gotten a lot of that from Drake recently.
I love Passion Fruit now. It might have taken me 5 years to get there, but man, he was really spitting. I'm Blim. Like, I'm really Blim. Please give me time, cause I'm searching for these. Like, I'm really loving what Drake is doing with these records, and I think that was the master plan. Drake released some ass to make me go back to his discog and look through some gems. Like, he really was doing something back then. I was wrong. CLB is not that bad. The next album, I guess, that's on this list will have to be like Future's I Never Liked You. And don't get me wrong, I Never Liked You is still one of my albums of the year, one of my favorite albums that came out this year. But it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be some no questions, no competition type album of the year material, and it wasn't, because this is very confrontable. I guess if you wanted to say anything about it, this is very like another album could come around and kick this album's ass. If you put I Never Liked You up against a lot of records that came out this year, I Never Liked You might lose a couple battles. It might leave some of those rooms scuffed up. So even though it's still one of my favorites, it's just not, undeniably, unquestionably, unequivocally the greatest thing that came out this year, like I wanted it to be. And that's okay. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? I was wrong. I'll admit that. I was wrong. But it's still one of my favorites. You can't take that away from me. Not only was I wrong about I Never Liked You from Future, but I was also wrong about The Wizard. I don't know what I was feeling the day that I listened to this record on camera, but almost every song that I disliked or I had a disdain for, I came back to and I was like, wow, this is speaking to me on a spiritual level. And I don't even do drugs at this moment. And when I say spiritually, I mean that I wasn't supposed to listen to The Wizard the time I listened to it. Had this record came out now, The Wizard probably would have been in my top 5 favorite Future projects. I listened to it when I wasn't doing what the record was saying. Half of it I didn't feel as deeply as I do now. Told my bitch to find us a bitch we can fuck on together tomorrow. Fucking my wrist up, fucking a brick up. Yeah, going to hop on the truck. Oh my God. What was I thinking? This is one of Future's best hooks ever. The build up into the hook, the way the hook goes right back into the verse so flawlessly. So the fluidity of this track is beautiful. I just put my whole damn arm in the fridge. The verse on Jumping on a Jet, Rocket Ship, Temptation, F&N, Called a Coroner. Like, bro, this whole album was such a great experience. Future was in his heavy melodic bag here and it worked. I thought Baby Tron was trash for so long. It took me at least 2.5 years to really like accept this man. You know what I'm saying? And now I feel like he's one of my pioneers for Detroit. It was only after hearing him be recontextualized on that Lil Yachty Michigan boat tape that he dropped, I think last year or somewhere around there, featuring nothing but a bunch of Michigan and Detroit artists for the most part, that I saw what Baby Tron had to offer the world. Laid back delivery, just like most, you know, Detroit artists. They not really in the mix like that, not doing too much in the music, very relaxed, very toned down. But I wasn't getting that in his music until I heard him on that album. Granted, I also wasn't listening to his music, so that's the thing too. Encountering Baby Tron's music just casually didn't have the same effect for me until I put him in the context of a Detroit rapper, bro, and realized how important he is to me. Don Toliver with Life of a Don. I really enjoyed this record off first listen, and now I almost never listen to it. And I thought that would never happen. Don Toliver obviously is one of my favorite artists. You know, he's got a lot to offer melodically. Generally he croons over some really good instrumentals, and I like his melodies and his harmonies, and his voice is really nice. But I don't know what it was about Life of a Don that just makes me not return to it as much as I wanted to. And there were a lot of interesting and very catchy tracks off of that first experience that I had with it. Tracks like You featuring Travis Scott, What You Need, Drugs and Hella Melodies. I was wrong about Drugs and Hella Melodies as well. I didn't really like that song like that, and now I love that song. It's one of my favorite records off of the Life of a Don album. But then I was wrong again because I don't listen to the album that much anymore. What's wrong with me? It may be something that's so numbing about Don Toliver's voice on this album that makes me not want to return to it. I almost feel like I have to go in like emotionless or damn near sedated to a point where the songs and his voice just all appear like muffled to me. This album makes me feel like a doll, like a life-sized doll, plastic and all, because there's something about this album that just does not feel real. And I don't mean real in the sense that it is so dreamy and creative that it's almost like a human couldn't have made it. I mean real as in cloning an animal and the inside of the cloned animal being mush. Like it's not a living organism that's singing or something like that. Even though he sounds good, he doesn't feel real. It's so strange. Maybe it's too stripped back, or maybe the content doesn't grab me enough, but this definitely is not in my top spots anymore. Whole Lot of Red from Playboi Carti is not a record that I think I was wrong about, more so a record that I would say I needed a little bit more time with, because I never disliked this album. I would say on first listen, I liked it and was confused by it, because this wasn't a record to me that I could be so black and white about. And there were elements throughout the record that I loved, but just weren't executed to the degree that I thought they would be. And then I later found a way to appreciate the way those things were executed. For example, how strained his voice was throughout the album. And this is actually probably one of my favorite parts of Whole Lot of Red, just how primitive Carti is on this record vocally, and how that approach to a lot of the songs off of this record help intensify its energy. I love this record way more now than I did when I first heard it. Way more than I did when I agreed or didn't really have a harsh opinion on someone calling it their album of the year back in 2021. It's crazy because I heard so many people talking about how this Drake album is such a vibe. You can dance to it. You can dance to it. You can dance to. Bro, I'm dancing to Carti. I'm dancing a Whole Lot of Red. Put Punk Monk on loud as fuck on your speakers and tell me you're not moving. Put Stop Breathing, Jump Out the House, Over. Oh my God, don't. I don't think I've had more energy than being at a function where Sky was playing. That shit is crazy. That is literal crack in a song. It's appropriate for the sweaty ass dude that's at the party going crazy off the drugs, off every drug that you can imagine, saying what is drugs. It's appropriate for the nigga that's getting dressed, getting fitted, getting suited and booted, about to go out for his day. All the bad bitches are playing it. All the fine niggas are playing it. 21 Savage, Metro Boomin, and Offset with Without Warning. I wasn't too keen on this record when it first came out. Like, I definitely enjoyed it, but I didn't like it as much as I do now. Almost every song off of this album aged really well. Songs that I didn't think would stick with me long term, like Mad Stalkers. I Could Still Go Crazy to Ric Flair Drip. I think there was a component that my brain wanted to be on this record really badly, because I didn't want it to just be Offset and 21 for a whole tape. I really wanted someone like Gucci to appear on this thing, maybe a random Drake feature to pop up. I think this would have been like one of my favorites of 2017 had we included more people. And so I was more focused on what this record could have been had more voices been included, more voices than just, you know, a Travis Scott feature. But coming back to it years later, I listened to this thing like, bro, this was really one of the best parts of that year. I still be rolling and patrolling through a random Walmart screaming, I call it KKK because my chopper hate niggas, bro. That's my favorite line from 21, I think, ever. Man, this last record pains me to actually say I was wrong about, because I still like it. I still enjoy this record, but nowhere near as much as I almost made myself believe at the end of the year during this record's release. And I have to put Brent Faiyaz' Fuck the World album in this space. It's not that this was a trash record. It's not that it was a bad album. It just did not stand the test of time for me. And maybe that's because I was in a Brent Faiyaz drought. Clouded is still really good. Kids Want Money, whatever that track is called, is still pretty good. Skyline is nice. But this project as its own body of work doesn't stand where I thought it would. Two of the records that were the strongest, I feel like, on this album were released months and months and months before this dropped. And one of them, the London cut, feels incredibly disjointed and isn't nearly as strong of a performance from him vocally as some of the other stronger cuts off of this record. I think I was just in a place where I was just in such a severe Brent Faiyaz drought that anything that he would have dropped in that moment would have sufficed, and I would have been like, yeah, this is it. This is the moment. This is what he's doing. He's on one. He's on top. Like, that's what I felt like at that time. Not to say that my standard for Brent Faiyaz is that much higher right now, but I do expect more from more tracks and a more complete body of work, hopefully, with this new record that he's dropping in about 10 to 15 days. If Wasteland don't hit, I'm deleting my channel. I'll do a part 2 to this video at some point in the future, but I really don't be wrong like that when I think about it and I go back in my discog videos and shit like that. Like, I really be on point low key. Y'all just don't be, you know, understanding the spirituals.